been things that I've been getting a lot of questions from teams. The first off, JUMPSTART, right? Like you kind of heard a little snippet between Megan and I talk about how this was going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. It's a very strange platform for us this year. But I think so far, the first hour and a half that we've had, 2 hours, I've appreciated, number one, the presenters. It was great to have Dean Kamen on. Many thanks to Medtronic. This does not happen without the leadership and the partnership that Medtronic has provided for us this year, and also the infrastructure. But what could we do different? We've got 2 more dates for sure that are scheduled coming up. What do we do different to make this more approachable, a better platform? I'm open to any suggestions.
Yeah, I think we've got to try and get more kids participating.
Yep.
I was, when I sort of scrolled through the list, earlier, I was a little disappointed that we had so many just mentors and not that many students. So we somehow got to figure out how to get to the students and drag them in, because there's a lot of really good content.
And I can tell you that many of the team leaders on our squad had debate this morning. They've got there's 5 or 6 other things that are operating on Saturday mornings that I know that many of them will be watching the videos once we get the recordings.
Okay.
And I know our team was really making a push for the 14th. So.
And John, what team are you from? Sorry to ask.
2502.
Okay. Oh, John, I met you before numerous times.
Yeah.
Okay. Just I don't see
they're
your
playing
face,
pickleball, apparently.
I think when we get into the next couple things here, we'll talk a little bit more about getting the students involved and what's happening out there with teams. For 4607, to be honest with you, this is our first day of meeting. We have not been able to meet. We've been watching our county numbers for COVID kind of fluctuate and now exponentially grow the last 2 weeks. So we've been pumping the brakes pretty hard on getting the students in. I know that 1114 and 12-5, we will have a few sessions from our students, and we're going to hopefully get more from more teams than students involved. But yeah, that's the big thing we're seeing right now is the students' involvement across the board has been hampered, if you will. So anything else with JUMPSTART? What could we do differently? What could this look like in the future?
Is there anything coming up on the next 2 sessions focused on rookies in understanding the basic mechanics? My son just graduated. My daughter has just started as a freshman, and she jumped on one of the first sessions, and she couldn't keep track of the conversation.
Too many buzzwords.
Yeah, and she didn't have the fundamentals. Yep. And I think that, all of our rookie trainings are so scattered this year. It would be really powerful for us to be able to develop something kind of jointly to, here are the mechanics of ABC to how this works, and to give the rookies a fighting chance of contributing once the season launches.
I think the last 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, and I think historically Minnesota's had a very strong rookie class every year. What we've typically done at JUMPSTART at St. Cloud State is we have a rookie session that's just specifically set up for those questions. And what we do is we bring in last year's rookie teams that either won Rookie Inspiration or Rookie All-Star, and we get them set up to talk about their trials and tribulations and then give a little feedback. Again, but that's on the team side.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm talking individual freshmen or 8th graders that are coming into the program that need the building blocks of FRC. Yeah. That's more where I was going from.
Okay. So more individual. Okay. We will have to mine for that, try to get someone or a couple teams that can help with the rookie side of things, or even just, establish.
We have kind of like so you're a part of the first robotics team, sort of a thing that we do with new members. And a large portion of that is just inside jokes that are specific to our team, but also specific to First Robotics. And
Like what's a water game?
Exactly. You've got to explain water challenge, because otherwise, I mean, like joining the first robotics team is like watching Monty Python. Like if you don't, if you're not like, if they don't explain the jokes, it's not funny. It's just weird. And I love Monty Python, but you need to be with people. Somebody's got to explain it and pause. So
Yeah.
It's like a
That's good
rookie
point.
onboarding. Think of it as rookie onboarding. You know, what are those fundamental things that any student joining a first team for the first time should know? It could be definition of terms. It could be, as Mark was just saying, those sly inside jokes. You know, I'm thinking of 2530 with all of their riffs on The Princess Bride. You know, things that you might encounter that you'd be like, I have no idea what's going on here, and we want to keep them, not lose them. So think of it as a rookie onboarding. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's essentially where it's at. It's like, you know, what's the basis of the software that we're programming, you
Yeah.
know, and just the ABCs of this, I think would be a primer. And I think if we could do something like that even prior to the recruiting season to get people interested in joining first. And those are the types of things where I think we could help every team in their recruiting by giving some of those kind of primers.
Thanks, Jerome. I do appreciate that. It's always a struggle. I came back into this year concerned because I don't know my sophomore juniors as well as I have in previous years with everything being cut off the way it was. Yeah, so I do appreciate that question and the concern for that. We'll look into it and see what we can do with 11-14 and 12-5. And if anybody's willing to volunteer again to help with that, we're always open to volunteers. So
who's not in the meeting? That's usually how we decide who has to do stuff.
yeah, I'm not sure if that works other hubs, but yeah, it's definitely how we do things in the Central Minnesota Robotics Hub.
One of the things that I would just say for me personally, and maybe it was just me personally, is confusion over the intent. I mean, first of all, we didn't attend JUMPSTART. So, you know, I attended like the Go First events way back, but we haven't been to get JUMPSTART. So I didn't know and I didn't realize that there were I thought it was 3 individual sessions. I didn't
Usually
realize
it is. Yep.
that. And so if there could be some of that, and some of that I know is because of going virtual, so it may not really impact. But the other thing I would say is definitely getting people to explain more what the intent of their different sessions are, because my kids always struggle. You know, then you wouldn't have that. The freshmen probably shouldn't be attending an advanced electronics thing.
Yep.
And the advanced kids, I mean, I've got some kids who've been around for 4 years. They're not going to be interested in a basic, you know, it's going to be a waste of their time. And right now it's a real struggle to keep them involved, and wasting their time is the last thing we want to do.
Yeah, and we knew moving ahead with 3 different dates of Zoom JUMPSTART was going to be problematic, especially when previous years we've overlapped a lot of those sessions. So what we've tried to do is program this first one very small with very impactful, meaningful sessions that we can build off of, get the questions in, that sort of thing. So you're going to see in 11-14 and 12-5, there's going to be more sessions available and more teams, so a broader spectrum of teams that are going to be involved too. That's the nice part about this. The other thing is now it's more lineal. We can adjust better. So in previous JUMPSTARTs, we waited an entire year to make any advancements or any adjustments. And by the time you get to that next planning year, or the planning cycle, a lot of the stuff had fallen by the wayside because first it changed. So this is nice that we can continue to build. What we are projecting is our Central Minnesota Robotics Hub. Every Friday night of the build season, we all meet together, the 22 teams, or how many ever can fit into that space. And we go through each week's problems, kind of the same thing we're doing right now, just on a smaller scale. So we're kind of looking at doing that because I don't know what the build season looks like at this point. So does JUMPSTART continue on later on in the build cycle as well? So explaining the abstracts is always a struggle because by the time you get into it, the ideas change from when you submitted to what you're presenting. So,
and then I'm going to monopolize. Sorry, guys. The other question I had, I was talking with my husband trying to figure out for the next meeting, we are focused on having our whole team attend. And I know I had heard we should try to get a space and, you know, do a more, I'm concerned about that because I also know, I want to know from the rest of you how you manage that if you have different kids wanting to attend different breakout sessions, which I know we would have.
Yep. So right now we have 6 different rooms set up and about 2 to 3 kids in each room. This room dedicated just for the mentors, and then the other one set up for the different sessions. And then I have 8 more students at home. And again, we didn't push to get all of our students involved because they are involved in volleyball, football, and everything else. So yeah, for us, it was literally setting up different stations in each different room. We didn't meet as a full group this morning. We went right to our different rooms, and that was kind of it.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else?
We had in-person meetings last week. My school's hybrid right now, so we had 2 meetings, one for the A day, one for the B day. Then yesterday we did a virtual meeting on Friday over Google Meets, and it did not work that well. So we're going to use Discord is the new
What were
plan.
the hangups there, Mark?
Just if kids are trying to connect on Google Meets with their school issued Chromebook, you got to cut out videos. You got to
Gotcha.
it's just problematic. And so a lot of the kids, I've never used Discord before. They're all, experts in it. So they said it's way better. And I'm like, okay, we'll do that. So.
Anyone else? Yeah, because we're ready to meet here. Again, we're AABB for Becker. So getting everybody on campus is just not going to happen ever until we get back to full-time learning. And the kids are, as you all know, they're done with virtual meetings and classrooms. So that's the other problem we have with that. Are other teams meeting quite frequently? No.
We currently meet Tuesdays online only, and on Thursdays we have limited, kind of a hybrid solution with a Zoom session combined with signups. People will sign up for particular mechanical or control related projects, and our programmers have a setup now where they can do their downloads to the robot remotely. Some programmers are generally all remote. Our business team is pretty much remote. And just for those interested, we have now set up a site-to-site VPN where we can actually have someone with a driver station and Xbox controllers remotely control the robot from their home.
It's awesome.
So it's
is there much lag time with that?
About 200-300 milliseconds.
Not much.
Not much.
Interesting.
If anyone's interested in setting up something like that, just let me know. I'll leave my email address in the chat. It's basically based on OpenVPN software and a couple Raspberry Pis. You do need at least the way I have it set up right now, you do need a static IP somewhere in the internet ecosystem as kind of the home base. But if you're interested, I'll leave my email address in the chat.
Yeah, our school just announced they're going full distance again from I think a week out until at least Christmas. And so the team had our first virtual game night last night. I had about 14 kids playing Among Us and Jackbox and things like that, which was nice to see. A little bit of normalcy kind of as we try to get through this. But other than that, it's just been planning and conversations, more of our steering committee. And we had a family orientation last week as well.
I can talk about what we do. We have Monday night all team Zoom meeting. We actually got our own Zoom account because we figured we're going to be doing a lot of Zoom stuff. So we, so as an entire team, we meet once a week on Mondays, and we've been trying to make those pretty interesting. by having guest speakers come in. So, you know, one week we did safety. We had Joe Johnson from a bunch of teams. He's currently with Team 88. Any of you guys that follow Chief Delphi probably know who Dr. Joe is. So he came in and talked about Swerve Drive. This week coming up, we have Steve Heyer, who runs the NAC, coming in to talk about advocacy. And we've got a sort of a regular schedule every Monday to have somebody come in and do a presentation. The benefit is that we can get these people on Zoom that normally would not be able to come into a team meeting. And we're finding them very willing to address other teams. So that's been nice. And then we divided the team up into pods. 4 or 5 students, typically one mentor. And then they can actually go into the school on a task by task basis. So it's very programmatic in that sense. So, they're gonna go in, the first thing they had to do is go in and find the robot and make sure that we didn't leave it on the battery charger and all that kind of stuff from when we walked out, on a Thursday night last March. That was the initial thing, and that was clean up the shop. And now we're going to kind of start going in and do some manufacturing. We're actually going to try and pull together a Swerve project. They did the CAD work this summer as a project, which was nice because it's all remote because it was CAD. And now we're moving into sort of a manufacturing phase where we'll have a select group of kids and a mentor go in to limit our exposure should somebody get sick. And we'll operate that way for a while and see how well that works. And our administrators bought off on it. So, Edina currently is hybrid and distance learning, so both models. And we're expecting it to go to all distance learning in the very near future, just as everybody else is, as this second wave kind of ramps up. So,
Mark, can you describe your pods just a little bit more? Are they based on sub teams, or how do you?
Yes, they're based on sub teams, and So our, like, I don't know, I think somebody said their programmers are all remote. Maybe you did. So our programmers are pretty much all remote. They're just programming the robot. And Steve, I'm interested in the VPNing and running the robot, because I think at some point we're going to want to try and pull that off. So we don't have to have more than 2 pods in the shop at any given time. So we have kids so a couple of years ago, we bought a CNC router, and one pod is responsible for the CNC router. And then we've got another pod that's sort of general assembly work, the sort of drill press, riveting, that kind of stuff. That's another pod. We've got business groups that meet remotely. So we've sort of divided the team up by, sub teams, so that we can be in the school on a regular basis and not have a risk of exposure to the team in general.
So what I'm hearing from both Mark and Steve we've got 2 very good sessions for upcoming JUMPSTART events. I like both of them. The pods idea, Mark, I think is quite brilliant. I think a lot of teams would take some notes from that. And then also Steve, seeing that infrastructure, even how you guys have set it up, a walkthrough, a lot of teams would benefit from that. So
I'll put a plug in for the FUM website. You go there and there's a COVID-19 section. There's probably, let's see, John, I think John was on. Is John still on?
Yeah, we have 4
teams.
Up there. I'm pasting my email address into the chat here. If anyone has a COVID plan that you'd like to get up on that website to share with everyone else, we want them. The more COVID plans we have up there, especially the more diverse plans and the more diverse teams are represented, the better it's going to be for everyone.
One of the things we heard in the mentor meetups is that a lot of the administrators have been reluctant to let their students in, and they wanted success stories, which is really what prompted that part of the website. with these plans so that you can, modify it to work in your district, but at least get it so that your teams can have some hands-on access. The Zoom fatigue is terrible.
Yep.
And it's really hard. Lori and I spend hours talking about how to get the students engaged, given this virtual environment when they're really there to build a robot. So that's been a tough thing.
So can we talk about that? So I want to segue from that administrators being reluctant to the question or the topic of Minnesota State High School League. What we've been hearing from a lot of our hub teams and teams to the north is their athletic directors are reluctant to do anything or to allow these teams to start meeting until they hear something from either the State High School League or some entity like First Upper Midwest, but they don't recognize the importance of First Upper Midwest at this point. Does that make sense?
Okay, so I sent out a statement from the high school league last week.
Yep.
In the email blast, and it's up on the website under the COVID-19. The high school, because we heard that in the last mentor meetup that they were, until they got permission from the high school league, they weren't going to let their teams in. And the statement basically says that they're not responsible for that, because we had, I don't know, many of you know this, but we have this very unique relationship with the high school league. They don't enforce their normal rules on first teams because we tend to break a whole bunch of them. And that was the negotiations right up front that, we still had to run our teams the way we run our teams, and they're okay with that. So, what they did want is the sort of the statement that typically signed by students about behavior and repercussions of bad grades and getting caught with alcohol or drugs or something like that. And then the state championship is really our responsibility, and they consider themselves, quote unquote, the presenting partner. So it's a different category. So anyway, so read the statement, and I think it pretty much clarifies it, and it's something you can take to administrators and say, see, here's the deal, and then go use these plans. We had to present our pod plan. Gosh, when did we do that, Lori? August? July?
We started drafting it June, July, and then the students went into school admin in August.
Yeah.
So the follow-up wasn't from us as the mentors, it was the students who then said, here's why we need to be in our build spaces, here's how we're going to do it, we're doing the pods. And we got approval amazingly immediately in that meeting because school admin was, oh my gosh, you actually have drafted a plan, you really have thought through it, and your students are really into it. So as I put in the chat, that's your secret weapon, is you can draft all the plans you want, but have your students really talk to school admin. We did it over Zoom. It worked out really well. And that seemed to do it for them. That seemed to make the difference. But the pods, these small groups, we really have been careful, as Marcus said. We only put in the kids who need to have hands on a robot, and we really limit the number of students who are in any given space at any given time. So yeah, I would recommend that highly. Look at the templates. First has some templates at First Inspires. I'm trying to find the link, but First Upper Midwest has the COVID section. And there is actually First Hall of Fame is putting together some additional documentation, and that should be coming out in the next week as well. So that's firsthalloffame.org.
Yeah, I want to say that our team had a similar process. It was the summer, and our captains started thinking, how are we going to meet? And they sort of presented the beginnings of, an idea plan to the mentors. And then coincidentally, like the next week, the athletic director wanted a meeting with all of the coaches to sort of say, how are we going to get people, back and meeting again? And so we were able to then, work with them, and the school was looking for it to come from the coaches, not from the students. So we sort of acted as a pass through to try to, get all that working for us. But very similar process overall in terms of creating the plan and then getting it approved by the school before we actually could start meeting.
On a different topic, has anybody started thinking about what the innovation challenge and how you're going to organize your team to be able to, do something that's not been done before from an FRC team structure?
Okay, well, I'll jump in. The Global Innovation Challenge this year actually is taking the place of the Entrepreneurship Award. So for teams that have in prior years put together a business plan and competition documentation, that's being rolled into Global Innovation. I am expecting that all of us are going to see some additional information about what they call GIA internally in the coming couple of weeks, but the big reveal will be at kickoff. And the idea is going to be you're going to have to solve a problem that's related to under that overarching umbrella of first game changers. My guess, reading between the lines, is that there will be, so if you have a business group who's worked on entrepreneurship and marketing and media, they are going to be highly engaged in whatever that challenge turns out to be, because the impression I get is that a business plan is going to be part of an entrepreneurship. What have you come up with? Innovation. You're going to have to sell that to a panel of judges. So that's your presentation group. That's your writers. All of that's going to be folded into GIA. The other two competitions, the game design and the skills challenge, again, they're working on what that actually is going to be and what the challenges are that you're going to have to figure out, but they fully recognize that we're working virtually for the most part, and they're encouraging teams now to figure out how they might group their students to really focus on each of those challenges. And you don't have to do all of them. If your team votes and says we only want to do the skills challenge, then there's your answer. You just divide up and have those students work on that. But they're trying to provide as much, as broad an opportunity as possible for you as team mentors to engage as many of your students possible, even in the remote environment. So
I have loved that. I'm really excited. We actually have a mentor, a former alumni mentor that is in college right now remotely, who took it on and is really got a lot of excitement. It's actually her major is in entrepreneurship. And she has been Zooming with the kids because she can, and talking about how she's going to provide them support and how much excitement. And she's having a pre-brainstorming to go through what is out available, and then, planning on helping out when we hear more details. And I think that's one of the benefits. I think, I get the Zoom fatigue, but I haven't seen a ton of that when there's something fun to get together and talk about. Our programming team has been doing a ton online. Almost all of our different groups have been meeting. Our business teams have been meeting online. They've stuff to do. They seem to be engaged. They, as I said, they're just about not wasting our time. They want to make sure that they're doing something and productive.
Yeah, we had 6 people meeting with our chairman's team this morning. So yeah, if you have something good, it's definitely useful to have the Zoom option.
Alex, you're muted. Can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Our third topic is the MRAC, Minnesota Robotics Coaches Association. We've been getting a lot of movement on that. We just put the website there in the chat. What we're doing right now is we're trying to find the last few representatives from the different regions throughout the state. And for those of you unaware, what we did is we just broke the state up into 8 different regions based upon the Minnesota State High School League regions or sections that they have used historically. And we fit the teams in the best we could there. There is possibility for movement, but at this point, we just want to get things up and rolling. So if you go to that website, what you're going to see at the very top is the application for regional representation. And we're going to roll those out for 2 years just to get everything moving. One thing at the Northern Minnesota Robotics Conference last weekend is they wanted more control over who's going to be representing them. Of course, that's what the model we want to get to. At this point, we want to make certain that we have just representation from each of those different regions. And right now we have 5 regions covered. We're waiting for 3 more, and those are more the metro area teams. So St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Western, the West Metro, I believe is what it is. I'll have to look at that. But if there's any questions or concerns or comments on this, I'd gladly love to hear them. So
What's the commitment you're looking for from the people to be helping you out?
that's the exact question that stumped me last week. Right now, what we're looking for is a body that can help organize what this is going to look like in future years. We're not looking at meeting in person just because we're spread throughout the entire state of Minnesota. Our meetings in previous years, the last year and a half, have been at the local regional events. So up in Duluth and in Minneapolis, we've brought the mentors together to discuss this. What can it look like? That sort of thing. The commitment at this point is really just going back to your local hubs and teams in your area and getting more information on what they need, kind of like what we're doing here today, and then passing that on. The goal for last year was to have a coaches award and an assistant coaches or mentors award, along with honoring the Hall of Fame. But again, once COVID hit, that kind of put everything to the side. So what does it look like during the normal year? 4 Zoom meetings or 3 Zoom meetings and a regional meetup at a regional event? Does that answer your question, Jerome?
Yes, I imagine Woodbury's in the St. Paul region.
Woodbury's in the St. Paul region. Yep. And you guys.
So I'll be happy to help from that region if you need.
Yep. So if you could just go to that link there and log in or sign up, that'd be awesome.
Alex, I think I put my name in, but I haven't heard anything. So I don't know if you already have.
Yeah, and everything won't go back until it closes on the 14th. So then we'll put it all out there. We do have one region that has 3 people that have applied. So we're going to put that back to that region and let them decide who goes. We just want to make certain that as we do this, every region feels like they have representation that fits them. But where the regions where we only have one representative, it's going to be that person going forward. As of right now, our accomplishments so far, we got a bank account set up, which doesn't seem like much, but holy smokes, that took a lot longer. And there were so many roadblocks that I ran into just getting this stupid thing set up. But we finally have one. We got money in the bank, so we can actually start doing more stuff with it. Yeah, I don't know besides awards, I really don't know what we're going to do with that money, but we'll see. Any other comments, questions with the MRCA? All right. So those are the 3 big topics that I wanted to make sure that I got feedback from: JUMPSTART, MRCA, and then how teams can get better info to their admins. I think we got those 3 covered very well. Got a lot of notes for all of them. Steve, again, I really hope that you're able to join us in the coming weeks at one of those JUMPSTARTs to showcase, or your students, that VPN setup. That'd be awesome.
Sure. Hey, Alex, one other thing that might be a good topic is I know that several of the FRC teams have set up a 501c3 to get them out of the traditional PSO organizations. And, it might be, I know we would be very interested in having a dialogue and hearing the structure of what some of those other teams have done to create that. Because we're in the process of exploring that right now.
Okay. That was my next question. Have you guys done it? The nice thing is we just went through this process with JUMPSTART. JUMPSTART now is a 501c3. Again, we have our own bank account. We have everything set up so that we can start sending our sponsor money through there. And again, not a fun process, but we did find some quick tools that'll get you going. The biggest one was a Parent Booster Clubs organization. That thing is phenomenal. If you haven't done it, it does cost a little bit of money. I think it was $495 for startup, and then right around $300 for every year to keep that model up and going. But depending on what kind of inflow you have with cash, for us, it just seemed worth it. So
I'll comment on that. Short.
Go ahead, Jesse.
What we did up here, and we're still kind of in the process, but the NMRC is a 501c3 organization, and we're trying to get that set up as an umbrella for all of the teams that fall within our conference, which may or may not be a better deal depending on how you look at it. And the positives are, if you're looking for sponsorship or financial contributions from major companies, they tend to feel better giving money to a large group or a region, typically, it seems, as opposed to an individual entity or an individual team. So we're trying to leverage our 27 team membership up here to gain some sponsorship and some financial stuff. We run it through the organization, and then we can distribute that through the teams. And we've already done some of that with, like, Enbridge has done a bunch of support to our organization that we've funneled to our teams, and Sourcewell as well has been huge for us, for some of our teams that fall within their region up here. So instead of doing it individually, which is daunting either way, but if you can get the whole group to come together and do that, that seems like it's mutually beneficial for a lot of people.
See, how do you figure then in terms of, I don't know if you've done a lot. I could see one of the drawbacks in terms of, okay, if your team is really active and going out and finding sponsors, and then that team is going, do you get that money funneled to you, or does that go out? Are there teams infighting at all about who gets which portions?
No, not at this time. Usually our sponsors are contributing to the group, and I know Curtis Robertson from Uppsala, Minnesota was very key in obtaining some of that Sourcewell stuff. And then my teams up here were pretty key in obtaining some of the Enbridge stuff. But usually we try to set it up. Well, Sourcewell is pretty easy because it falls within their region of influence. So they're going to give X amount of dollars to every team in their region of influence that's associated with the NMRC. So that's dedicated. And then with our Enbridge stuff, Enbridge wanted to support rural Native American communities with their sponsorship. So teams had to prove their Native American influence in their teams. So the money went to the teams that could prove that they had X many students, or they were trying to recruit students of that demographic to obtain that money. Right now, we haven't had just like a general donator that said, here's X amount of dollars, you can distribute it as you wish. It's more specific to the donator's cause, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I wish Steve from 2977 was here to talk a little bit about what Seven Rivers has done. They've effectively gone through the same model. And even the Central Minnesota Robotics Hub, we talked about this. We act like what we call a super team. Chatting with those teams from the Northern Minnesota Robotics Conference, they truly are a super team. It's fun to engage with them. So if you do have any questions about different models for your local area, Northern Minnesota Robotics Conference one, and then again, Seven Rivers seems to be on that same path as well, with distributing funds throughout the group, but organized under one 501c3. Mark, could you talk a bit about this, or Lori, about what they've done down there? I'm not as.
I think it's the same thing that Jesse was just talking about. You know, they've got a consortium of teams, and they funnel the money through the Seven Rivers Foundation. They also use that to fundraise for the regional event in La Crosse. So they actually cross state boundaries because they've got teams from both sides of the river. And, you know, it does serve as an umbrella for distributing funds both to the regional event and individual teams So it sounds
Yeah.
to me like we've kind of got three models here. We've got the Parent Boosters Association model, we've got the individual team model, and then we've got the group team model. You know, that might make for a good panel discussion at one of the Jumpstart sessions.
Mark, did you just volunteer to lead that session? That's just
No.
awesome. Well, the other thing I'll say, we just went through a very long process to the team itself. What's interesting is that the discussion became the team itself is not the 501c3. We now have an overarching Edina Robotics Foundation, and that allows Edina Robotics Foundation to act as a fiscal agent. So we are bringing our 10 to 15 FTC teams under Edina Robotics Foundation to be their fiscal agent, because turns out FTC teams raise and spend quite a bit of money, and they need someone to help them with that management so that it becomes a sustainable program. But there was a lot of internal debate whether it should be the team or should it be another overarching organization. And so far we're finding that setting up a separate nonprofit that is a benevolent funder of FIRST programs in Edina is going to be of great assistance. So that's another possibility.
And Lori, that's what we had originally thought of doing. And so it's interesting to hear the different models. And so as we're exploring the next step for us over here in Woodbury.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in that as well.
Well, and then there's also for our Becker Robotics Booster Club is actually organized under our schools booster club. So we don't have to have our own 501c3. And yeah, everything is funneled. The nice thing is everything's funneled through there. We don't have to wait the 2-week turnaround for requisitions or anything else. They're a lot easier to get a refund from than from the schools. So there's a few models here. And again, I think we do probably need to take a look at how they're set up, because yeah, depending on where you're sitting, one's going to be easier than the other. So. Excellent. Any more topics or questions or concerns from people? We got a few minutes left here.
Go ahead. I'll add, if you're looking at like a rookie need to know thing, I'd be willing to work with somebody for the December 5 Jumpstart session. Yeah, there it
Sorry,
is.
it's not going to happen on the 14th, Alex, no matter how much you beg now. Jesse, I would love to work with you on it. I just told Alex I have a conflict on the 14th.
Honestly, that we're really gearing everything up. We had a debate, or not a debate, we had a discussion after Dean came and committed, like, oh shoot, should we have had him on December 5th? Because we are growing towards that date. This is, again, the initial one. Great growth numbers over last year. Last year, there's 250 some people there now. This year, we're over 400 at Medtronic. But we're really growing towards St. Cloud. We're hoping that's our big one. That actually fits better just because we're closer to the season. By then, most schools are going to have a better understanding of where they're at in terms of COVID and how they can meet. So that might be the better one just for the rookie team or rookie member sessions. So, and Jerome, if you could, like, one of the things that I do need that's easier for me to recruit presenters is if we have like specific examples or questions that would follow along with that. The biggest thing is now this is my 9th year in FIRST, so those years of understanding what rookies are going through, I've kind of slipped my mind. It's one of the reasons why we always tap our sophomore teams to do the rookie presentations, just because those of us that have been around for a while have no idea what it's even like anymore. So
I had just tasked we flew up 10 FTC students to FRC this year, and I have literally in the last week have voluntold them to do exactly this, which is, now that you're on FRC, what do you wish you knew? So we might be able to leverage that as well. And if they really are nice to me, I'll make them present on December 5th as well. So we might have some of our students that could actually talk through what they're learning and what it's like to drink from the fire hose now that they're on FRC. I am going to put a plug in. There's a question in the chat about how many teams have registered for 2021. All I can say is that talk to everybody you know and encourage teams to register to participate. Again, with the different online challenges and different remote challenges, the hope is that there truly is a something for every team, and registering now between now and I'm going to mess up the date, but it's like November 14th, November 16th. You register and you apply for the NASA grant, and that is an almost automatic $450 towards your team registration, and that is just awesome. So please encourage everybody who has not yet registered for the season to please do so. On the off chance that we get lucky and we get to turn on live events at some point, being registered now is your ticket to getting a ticket to a live event. So it's important on so many different levels to get everybody registered.
And speaking to that NASA grant, it took me maybe 5 minutes from finding the website and jumping onto it to applying. And then within 24 hours, we had $450 sitting there. And I wasn't even more excited about the $450. I mean, we always like money, but just the fact that we have the NASA emblem now that we can put on some of our stuff.
Exactly.
Showcase our community. We're sponsored by NASA. So
yes,
so.
Update your team sponsor list, because all of us should be highly promoting NASA this year as a sponsor of our teams. Any update on in-person events? Yes, Jesse, that's the update. We're in that holding pattern. We're waiting. There are plans in place that if this COVID situation eases and we can run live events, the teams that have registered now are the ones who are going to get that information to participate. And locations, unfortunately, I'm sorry, until we know what we're given the green light, we really just can't even talk about locations at this point. But the intent is that the locations that are being looked at are easy driving distance for teams to get to. And in the majority of cases, you'll be able to drive to that location and back home. It'll be a long day, but you'll be able to do a round trip in that one day. Yeah.
I jump back to the NASA grants because our team talked about it and then consciously decided not to, because it kind of talks about leaving that money for others. Is that the case, or?
They've got money for everyone this year.
Yeah.
That's why it's set to $450 instead of their typical, larger grants for a select number of teams. So definitely apply for it.
Okay.
There's, again, because of the COVID year, there was the decision not to be able to do the Engineering Inspiration Award, because that is so key to the live events that NASA decided, well, let's back as many teams as possible this year. So they are funneling a lot of that money to us as teams to encourage us to participate. Jesse, I will look for the NASA link and I will put it in the chat.
The other thing I put in the chat, just real quickly, for all of you mentors, pass the word around. We are working on a first alumni event this year. It will obviously be virtual, but we're hoping it's going to be a fun thing. And we're doing it, again, the first Thursday before kickoff. So it turns out to be January 7th. And it's going to be open to all first alumni. So anybody that has been on any team, and then also the high school seniors. So if you have seniors that are interested in joining us, the first one is going to be more of a social connecting people together. We've talked about perhaps putting together a more like college and career type thing at a later date. But this one is just really about connecting with other first people, talking first.
And Sandy, we just created an alumni Facebook group for all of the 11, 12 years of students on the team. Where are they working now? Where are they going to school? What was their major? Trying to highlight that for the rookies to see that it's not just about engineering.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. If you could then promote the event. The biggest thing I'm worried about this year is promoting the event. So Get the word out to those, because our alumni, as you know, go everywhere. So I want to make sure. And I think this is a cool opportunity because they can join online from wherever they are in their new careers.
Well, I've got a lot to look over for our next one. We are taking abstracts still through the Medtronic website. If teams are still looking to present, I'm going to be calling individual teams myself. And then the registering, if you only registered for the 31st, go ahead and feel free to register for the 14th and the December 5th. Again, that'll still be on the Medtronic JUMPSTART website. It's also posted on jumpstartrobotics.org, and I'll put that in here in just a minute. But yeah, please register for those, get your kids involved. Hopefully this was informational for you folks today. It's different. It's definitely different from meeting all of you in person and seeing everybody, but it's the best we could do. So, and again, the gracious.
It was a great morning.
Okay, thank you. But in Medtronic needs to hear. Medtronic is a very vocal partner right now with us, and they are really wanting to get this thing beyond Minnesota. If you notice, we did have an FTC team from California. We had a number of teams from the New England district, and we had 2 teams that joined us, one presenting and one that just joined us from Ontario. So there was a nice group of people this year. So.
I'm looking forward to the product showcase.
That one is going to be fun. That one, we'll see how it goes. Right now, we do have Rev completely signed on. Andy Mark has, they don't want to travel to Minnesota. Last year, they said absolutely not. We talked to them at IRI, and Baker just said, no, that's not a question. But now with the Zoom being as popular as it is, maybe we have a better chance of landing some of those other distributors too. So, but yeah.
There's just a couple of things from Jesse in the chat. A list of Minnesota rookie teams we can reach out to. That would be a conversation with Ken Rosen, our Minnesota regional director. And in terms of applying to the First and Upper Midwest Board of Directors, there are 2 open seats right now that are up for grabs, and we are actively looking for individuals to step forward and want to work with us on the board of directors to really start to promote and better sustain FIRST Robotics here in the Upper Midwest. Those nominations are open until, the date is escaping me, I think it's November 14th as well. But I encourage any of you who, either yourselves or if you know people, to have them reach out to the current board members. We are having conversations with interested individuals and are happy to answer any questions. So please take a look and please think about how would you like to see FIRST Robotics as we come up out of COVID, especially. What are we going to look like? What are we going to do? Where should we go next, people? This is your opportunity.
Excellent. Well, if that's it, then I appreciate everybody showing up today. Again, it's been great putting this together. Thank you, Medtronic. We can't say enough great things about this company. Yeah, they've been the leaders through all of this, getting the Zoom put together and the logistics of it. So thank you so much, Medtronic. Thank you, Megan, for monitoring this part of the day. We do appreciate that. All the individuals that are in the background there, making sure everything goes smoothly. So it's much appreciated.